It was the hottest July I'd ever seen down here in central Texas. The kind of heat that doesn't just dry out the air, it sucks the hope right out of you. The herd was bawling. The topsoil was cracking like old china. And my well, the one my grandfather dug by hand 70 years ago, the one that never failed, was nothing but a deep, dusty echo. I stood there, smelling the cooked earth, watching my irrigation pipes cough out sad little puffs of air instead of life. And then I heard it, just across the boundary line, the ticking sound of automatic sprinklers, the gentle, obnoxious gushing of a three-tier fountain, and the high, bright laughter of kids splashing in a backyard misting system. All using the water I no longer had. That's when I knew it wasn't just the drought trying to starve me out. It was theft. And the thief, the principal offender, was Vivian Thorne, the queen bee of the Regency Hills Preserve HOA. A woman who once tried to find me because my 100-year-old cedar barn clashed with the neighborhood aesthetic. Right then, standing on my dead land, I didn't just swear to get my water back. I swore to make sure she'd never waste another drop again. And when I was done, she'd have to ask my permission just to water her prize-winning petunias. Before we dive into how an old rancher ended up owning his town's water utility just to shut down an HOA, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what your worst HOA story is. And please, hit that subscribe button because this story is about to flow. For 30 years, I thought peace was simple. You work your land, you mind your livestock, you pay your taxes, and you leave people alone. But that kind of peace is impossible when a high-end development moves in next door. It started 5 years back when developers bought up all the grazing land north of my ranch and turned it into these stucco monstrosities, cookie-cutter houses with plastic shutters, fake smiles, and absolutely real entitlement. They called it the Regency Hills Preserve, and the name alone told you everything you needed to know about the people who live there. At first, I tried to be neighborly. I waved, I let their kids pet the calves, I even helped a guy pull his fancy SUV out of the mud one spring. But then the letters started arriving. First, they complained my rooster, General, created a hostile sound environment. Then, they claimed the patina on my old copper rain gutters wasn't in compliance. But every single piece of nonsense was signed by one person, Vivian Thorne. Vivian was gold-plated from her platinum blonde hair down to her pearl-encrusted garden clogs. She ran that HOA like a petty dictator, and she saw my old working ranch as a blight on her perfect view. We had words, of course. She said my tractor visible from the road ruined their property values. I told her that pavement and artificial turf ruined the planet. We definitely didn't see eye to eye. The drought that summer changed everything. The county went to stage 4 restrictions. No car washing, no fountains, strict residential allotments. But you'd never know it driving past Regency Hills. Their lawns were emerald green, their waterfalls were tumbling, and Vivian's massive front yard water feature, that thing looked like a mini Niagara, was running 24/7. My pressure was dropping fast. I brought in an old, grizzled plumber named Earl who walked my field for an hour, tapping pipes, muttering under his breath. He finally straightened up, spat a stream of chewing tobacco into the dust, and just said, "Caleb, you ain't got a leak. You got yourself a thief." That word stuck in my gut. I started checking the meter constantly, and sure enough, at night, I could hear this faint hissing sound where it shouldn't be. One evening, walking the long fence line with a flashlight, I found it. A narrow, perfectly smooth scar in the dirt, fresh soil disturbed and carefully recovered. I knelt down, brushed away the mulch, and felt the unmistakable cold, hard surface of a new PVC pipe running straight off my property, beneath the boundary, and into the shadow of the Regency Hills clubhouse. They had tapped my well. My first thought was to grab a backhoe and rip the whole thing out right then and there. But a colder, more dangerous thought took hold. If I just cut the line, Vivian would deny everything. She'd call her lawyers, blame the drought, call me paranoid, and then probably file a harassment complaint about my dusty old boots being too close to her decorative shrubs. No, I needed evidence. Ironclad, legal, undeniable proof. So I called Sheriff Deputy Clara, a good woman who owed me a favor for helping her with a tricky property line dispute years ago. Clara pulled the utility maps and quietly confirmed the shocking truth. Regency Hills had no secondary connection. They were legally restricted to the municipal line. They haven't dropped their consumption at all. Caleb, she whispered over the phone. Someone is feeding them water off the books, and if it's coming from your well, that's criminal utility theft. That night, I mounted 2 trail cameras, one on my wellhead junction, the other facing the HOA side. 2 nights later, I had my cinematic proof. There was a contractor wearing a safety vest, clearly marked Regency Hills maintenance, down in a small trench, adjusting a valve that redirected my water into their sprinkler system. My family's lifeline, stolen by entitlement. But I still didn't move. I was going to fight smarter than that. I drove into town and started asking quiet questions at the local hardware store and the feed co-op. I learned that Frontier Water Solutions, the private utility company that served both my ranch and the HOA, was struggling. The owner, a good old boy named Dan, was behind on taxes and looking to sell. The HOA was his biggest customer, but also his biggest headache, always demanding special treatment and constantly late on payments. An idea, a truly crazy idea, began to form. If Vivian Thorne thought she could steal my water, what would she do when I owned hers? Sitting on my porch that night, staring up at the stars above my parched fields, I made a new promise. No more yelling, no more arguing. I was going to end this legally, quietly, and permanently. The first step was letting them hang themselves with their own arrogance. For 2 more weeks, I watched as Vivian's waterfall ran, and her HOA bragged about their sustainable community initiatives. They had no idea the man they dismissed as a stubborn dirt farmer was about to become their new water supplier. The mistake came faster than I expected. The HOA, desperate to keep the water flowing, hired an unlicensed crew to dig a new lateral line right under the main access road, trying to extend the illegal tap to their clubhouse. They were expanding the crime. That was the last straw. I went out before dawn, mist still clinging to the dead clover. I shut off the master valve connecting my well to their illegal branch line, and then I attached a high-pressure lock cap that would require heavy tools and a lot of noise to remove. I even installed a tiny motion camera aimed right at the lock. By noon, the chaos was beautiful. I was sipping black coffee on my porch as the sprinklers across the way hissed to silence, and Vivian's Niagara Falls sputtered dry. I could see her, standing on her lawn in a sun hat, phone pressed to her ear, looking like she'd just discovered that gold doesn't actually grow on trees. Her maintenance guy showed up 20 minutes later. The camera footage, which I later enjoyed immensely, caught him staring into the locked pipe, turning to Vivian and just shaking his head. No water. She stomped her foot, shouting something I couldn't hear, but could easily imagine. Do you know who I am? Fix it now. Oh, I knew exactly who she was. And she was about to find out who I was, too. I immediately sent the footage and permits to Deputy Clara and the County Water Authority. The next 48 hours were glorious. County inspectors swarmed Regency Hills. Their private Facebook group, which I'd been accidentally added to by a less-than-loyal neighbor, exploded with panic. Why are there government trucks at Vivian's house? And the best one, wait, whose well were we using? Vivian's first move was entirely predictable. She came straight to me. I was fixing a broken fence post when I heard that high-pitched, brittle voice behind me. Caleb, we need to talk. There's been a mix-up with the irrigation system. She gave me this huge, fake smile. Maybe your plumbing connected wrong. I'm sure it was just a mistake. I turned, leaned on my post-hole shovel, and gave her a slow look. A mistake, Vivian? The kind of mistake that pumps thousands of gallons uphill across 2 property lines and into your 3-tier fountain. Her smile faltered. Let's not make this ugly. It's already ugly, I said softly, wiping sweat off my brow. You just didn't notice when you were winning. She swallowed hard, promising to make it right with the board. But I wasn't interested in her promises. The deal for Frontier Water Solutions was moving fast. The following week, Dan called, pure relief flooding his voice. Caleb, it's done. Signed and sealed this morning. You are the majority shareholder of Frontier Water Solutions. I leaned back, staring out at the fields that had nearly died. The irony was sweet as molasses. The very next morning, I drafted an official company memo titled, Revised Water Distribution Policy for Extreme Drought Conditions. It was simple, Effective immediately, all non-agricultural entities would be subject to strict drought rationing. Excessive landscaping and ornamental features were prohibited. Guess which HOA fell squarely under non-agricultural? I signed the memo, hit send, and felt a satisfaction deeper than any revenge could provide. The moment the new policy went public, the Regency Hills email chains caught fire. I had Deputy Clara sending me screenshots. Is this real? No fountains? How are we supposed to maintain property value? Vivian's formal complaint to Frontier Water Solutions, addressed to Corporate Division, which was just me and a single part-time secretary named Jolene, demanded an immediate exemption. Jolene brought the email to my desk, shaking her head. Boss, how should I handle this, Queen? I just nodded. Sent her our standard response, Jolene. The response was simple. Per county drought regulation, no exemptions will be granted. Continued violation will lead to suspension of service. By the end of the week, Regency Hills was a patchy, wilting salad. Their meters, now monitored by my technicians, were automatically cutting pressure if anyone tried to overadjust the flow. I walked out to the fence line that night and looked at Vivian's silent, cracked fountain under the moonlight. I could hear muffled, angry voices from her yard. Sarah, the grass is dying. You said we'd have water back by the weekend. The rebellion had begun. At the emergency HOA meeting, Vivian tried to spin it. This is all retaliation by that farmer next door. He's manipulating the county. But someone in the back shouted, Vivian, the policy came from Frontier Water Solutions. That's a private company, not the county. The meeting ended with residents demanding she refund their dues, and Vivian storming out, utterly humiliated. A week later, she called me. Her voice was tight, polite, and trembling. Mr. Reed, I assume you're aware of the chaos your company's policies have caused. I'm aware of the drought, ma'am, I replied, my voice dry as dust. And the fact that some people still think their fountains are more important than food crops. You're enjoying this, aren't you? I'm enjoying fairness, I said. Something the HOA could learn a thing or two about. You want compromise? Pay your outstanding fines, apologize publicly, and maybe I'll consider revising your water quota. You're blackmailing me, she spat. No, Vivian, I corrected her. I'm educating you. She hung up, but she didn't stop fighting. She called the mayor, the county commissioner, even threatened federal action. But every restriction was legal, logged, and approved by the Drought Authority. Her final, desperate move was outright sabotage. She authorized 2 contractors to tamper with the main meter box to override the flow limit. My cameras caught them cutting the seal. 20 minutes later, the sheriff's deputies were on site. The local paper ran the headline, Former HOA President Under Investigation for Water Violation. Again, every shop in town had copies. By the end of that week, the HOA board suspended Vivian. Her husband, Greg, resigned before he could be pushed. And for me, business was booming. My fields were green again, and Frontier Water Solutions had a waiting list of clients who appreciated accountability. Vivian's lawsuit, claiming she was the self-proclaimed victim of corruption and conspiracy, was her swan song. Her hotshot city lawyer painted a tragic picture of a respected community leader ruined by a powerful local businessman. I just about snorted when he called me powerful. But the turning point was Deputy Clara bringing in a surprise witness. Emily, Vivian's former secretary. Emily took the stand, notebook in hand, and read the internal memos for the court. Vivian Thorne directive to extend waterline under community fence. Vivian Thorne approval to use unregistered contractor. Vivian Thorne note. Do not discuss with county until after dry season. Every document bore her signature, dated and clear. When the judge dismissed her lawsuit and recommended a review for fraudulent filings, Vivian's face was the color of dried clay. As I walked out, a young reporter stopped me. Mr. Reed, any comment on today's outcome? I smiled, tipped my old hat, and said, Water always finds its level, ma'am. Guess justice does too. The Regency Hills preserve disappeared. Developers bought the tanked property cheap and tore down the fountains and the failed lawns, renaming the area Willow Bend Community, Sustainable Living. The HOA was dead, the bylaws dissolved by majority vote. I didn't hear from Vivian for a while. Then, a few months later, a dark sedan pulled up my dusty driveway. A quiet woman delivered a thick envelope. Inside was a short, trembling letter and a cashier's check for $5,000. Caleb, the letter read, I sold what little I had left. Consider this what I owed you from the beginning. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just closure. I live quietly now. No lawns, no fountains. I started volunteering at a community garden, teaching kids how to grow with less water. It feels strange, but it feels right. I folded the letter, felt the crisp edge of the check, and for the first time, the heavy weight of anger lifted. I deposited the money, not into my account, but into the new Willowbend Community Fund for a shared irrigation system. Vivian's debt, in a strange way, watered new life. I drive past the new community sometimes. The old iron gate is gone, replaced by a simple wooden sign. The air smells faintly of basil and soil. The land finally looks peaceful, like it can breathe again. Revenge is a simple taste, but justice is a cycle. You can steal from the land, you can hoard the flow, but sooner or later, it will always carve its own way back home. It always does. So, if you've stuck with me through this whole mess, tell me this. Did I go too far by buying the water company and using corporate power to punish one entitled woman? Or was it the only language she would ever understand? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe, because in this world of crazy HOAs, there's always another story waiting just down the fence line.